Again in the Faded Soldier blue, which I think is such a stunning combination, and the black boot. I noticed that there are a number of hidden zippers in these jackets. Now, what are these for, Betsy? They can't be for, is it for mad money?
Well, it depends on where they're placed. They can be wherever you want them. You know, for the pockets so that no snow gets into it, the zipper holding the hood in because it's easier to put the hood on and off with the zipper than it is with the snaps. Then there's zippers up the side so that the jacket will fit tightly around the hips, keeping that straight, sleek look that it should have. And very often you'll find a zipper hidden in the arm.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You'll excuse the fact that I'm out of breath, but about 10 or 15 minutes ago, a tragic thing, from all indications at this point, has happened in the city of Dallas. Let me quote to you this. And you'll excuse me if I am out of breath. A bulletin, this is from the United Press, from Dallas. President Kennedy and Governor John Connally have been cut down by assassins' bullets in downtown Dallas. They were riding in an open automobile when the shots were fired. The president, his limp body carried in the arms of his wife, Jacqueline, has rushed to Parkland Hospital. And if you'll excuse me if I give some directions and we talk about what we're going to do here for the next few minutes, but Bobby, let's tape this, if you please, particularly the interview with the eyewitness people. It is being taped good. Here's a piece of copy that was rushed to me and was torn off from the United Press in Dallas. President Kennedy has been shot in Dallas, Texas. He was shot as a motorcade left downtown Dallas. Mrs. Kennedy jumped up and grabbed the president. She cried, "Oh no," as the motorcade sped on. An Associated Press photographer, James Algens, 8LTGENS, reports he saw blood on the president's head. May I have your name, please, sir?
Bill Newman.
And this is Mrs. Newman?
Yes, sir.
And this is?
James Clayton.
James, and this is?
Billy.
Billy, tell me what you saw and what you felt. What happened to you?
We just come from left field after seeing the president and the first lady, and we were just in front of the triple underpass on Elm Street, and we were at the edge of the curve, getting ready to wave at the president. So
you were down under the viaduct, so to speak, weren't you?
Well, we were halfway in between
on the grass,
triple underpass. We were at the curb when the incident happened. But the president's car was some 50 feet still yet
in front of you.
In front of us, coming towards us, and we heard the first shot, and the president, I don't know who was hit first, but the president jumped up in his seat, and I thought it scared him. I thought it was a firecracker because he looked, fear. And then as the car got directly in front of us, well, a gunshot apparently from behind us hit the president in the side of the temple.
Do you think the first gunshot came from behind you too?
I think it came from the same location. Apparently back up on the mall. I don't know what you call it.
For the benefit of nomenclature, all you folks have gone out under the viaduct, and as you turn, going under the viaduct on the left-hand side, there's some grass. Do you think the shot came from up on top of the viaduct toward the president? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Not on the viaduct itself, but up on top of the hill, a little mound of ground there, the garden.
How far away would you say that is from where the president was? A couple of 300 yards, something like that?
Well, I have no idea because I didn't see where the gunshot come from. We were looking directly at the president when he was hit, and he was more or less directly in front of us, and we didn't realize what happened until we seen the side of his head whenever the bullet hit him in the head.
Did you see the blood coming from the president's head?
Yes, sir. I seen. I don't know if my wife did, but I seen that.
Oh, yes, sir. It was awful.
It is awful.
That's all.
What kind of work do you do, sir?
I'm a construction worker, electrician.
Is this the first time that you have seen a president of the United States? Did you see him when he was here before in 1961?
No, sir.
No, sir. You're a housewife.
Yes, sir.
Took the day off to come downtown and see the president?
Yes, sir, we did. We wanted our children to see it.
Were you in the line of fire? I remember vividly whenever I walked over and looked over the banister there and saw across the street that you were down on the ground so that to keep out of the line of fire. What was the first thought that struck your mind?
Oh, I thought it was a firecracker, and I saw the blood, and I had the baby, and I just ran, and I got on top of him and laid on the grass. It just scared me. It was terrible.
Did you see anyone else hit besides the...
Governor Connally was kind of turned to the side, and he grabbed his stomach.
There. Okay. Thank you. Jerry, if anything else comes in, we heard a report, and I'd like to say here, for the benefit of you folks who are tuning in, who have tuned in late to watch Julie Bonnell's show, that we interrupt the program, and our program will be interrupted all day because it is apparent now that President Kennedy has been shot.
The president, it looked like he was looking in that direction. I don't know whether he was hit first. Apparently he wasn't. It looked like he jumped up in his seat, and when he jumped up, well, he was shot directly in the head. And I don't know what you call it, the mall behind us, but apparently that's
where he was. I know that a few minutes after that, when I came over there and asked you people if you would be kind enough to come over and be on our station today, I know that the police were all taking off up the ramp and over.
Everybody was going in that direction.
Toward the railroad.
Yes, sir.
Cars back over in there.
I just hope the man that shot the president, I just hope they don't kill him. I hope he lives. I hope he just lives to regret what he did.
I think I can best explain it to you in my own words. We were about 100 yards. If you're familiar with Dallas, Houston Street is on top of what we call the underpass, and the road curves down and underneath the viaduct. Jerry Haynes and I were standing there, and we heard one shot, and then immediately thereafter another shot, and then a third a little bit later, and I said to Jerry, my God, those were gunshots, and we ran over, and unfortunately, I'm afraid they were.
It's nothing new, but just true.
Is it a recap?
Yes.
This we have said. Excuse me 1 minute and let me. Quote, Clint Hill, a Secret Service agent, this is from the United Press. Clint Hill, a Secret Service agent assigned to Mrs. Kennedy, said he's dead as the president was lifted from the rear of the White House touring car. Mr. Kennedy was rushed to an emergency room, and I believe it's Parkland Hospital. Is it, Jack? You have nothing? Okay, Jack Drabont, one of our producers, walked in. Other White House officials were in doubt as the corridors of the hospital erupted in pandemonium. Thank you, Jack. If any of the newsboys come in, or if there are any beat phones come in that we can have transferred here, and you better get Don Easterwood, who is our audio supervisor, to see if we can take them here and put them directly on the air.
All right.
Put them directly on the air. Representative Albert Thomas of Texas says he has been informed that both President Kennedy and Governor John Connally of Texas are still alive. Let me repeat that. This is a bulletin. Representative Albert Thomas of Texas says he has been informed that both President Kennedy and Governor John Connally of Texas are still alive. We are regrouping in the newsroom, and Bob, I would suggest as soon as you can that either you break one of these cameras or one of the other cameras and put it in the newsroom, and maybe a headlight on top of the camera, and let's move in the newsroom. Get an audio line set up there so that we can work directly out of there and find out exactly what's going on. We hope to God that this is true. I don't know when yes.
We have to get a tripod on one of the cameras. We can't get these in. So
I see. Okay, fine. Then we'll move in the newsroom. And a call also went out for a priest.
It's unusual, the reaction you get when you see someone, well, of course, like the president, such a political figure. It's as almost, well, there they were in front of you and I, and it seems to me that the president looked directly, because we were applauding, yes, directly, I'd say at you probably, because a little taller than I am, and there he was, and he waved at you, and then they rounded the corner, and just a few seconds later, we heard the shots.
I would say a minute before.
And the lady had a camera, I remember, was taking personal films of it.
Yeah.
And she, I think, was an eyewitness, and she had come running over and crossed the street.
Screaming, yeah.
Yes.
Just a minute, yeah. Don.
the cruiser's on its way to Parkland.
The cruiser is on its...
It's at Parkland.
It is.
They'll be feeding in before long.
All right, stand by. We have our remote cruiser is on its way to Parkland Hospital, and we'll be feeding there as soon as possible. It's 3 minutes after 1 o'clock. Jerry, somewhere around 12:35 this took place, so 30 minutes ago. Would you, while I get a breath and a drink of water here, recap the situation as to until now?
Right.
We'll be moving in our newsroom so that we can talk to the boys in the news department as they come in. Our cruiser is now on its way to Parkland Hospital. We will keep you up to date as soon as...
It's at Parkland Hospital.
It is at Parkland now.
Still have to hook up, though.
And they're trying to get it hooked up. Jerry, I'll be back in a couple of minutes.
All right. Well, as an announcer, it's my duty, ladies and gentlemen, to stand by in the announce booth here at Wfaa-Tv, and we began our feed of the President's arrival this morning. It was at 9 o'clock, and he was speaking at Fort Worth, of course, as you saw on Channel 8 or any of the other television stations in this area, and he made a very fine speech lasting some 15 minutes in length. Then he went outside and was in the jet, took off, and arrived in Love Field. Bob Walker, our Channel 8 newsman, stood by as we, in turn, fed the other television stations on the President's arrival in Love Field, and he was met by Mayor and Mrs. Cabell, by Mr. Eric Johnson, and other of the dignitaries who were to share the Speaker's table at Market Hall this afternoon as he was to give an address. And at the time, Bob Walker remarked, after the President met the official welcoming group, as he went out of his way to shake the hands of those who had lined the fences, having come out to Love Field this morning very early, and ignoring the possibility of rain. Of course, the sky is cleared and the clouds weren't to be seen, but the President shook all of the hands, and we saw the Secret Service men, and they followed him, and I wondered at the time just how effective. Of course, you have to be as effective as you can be, but there are human errors, and you can't cover all areas, and the Secret Service men, who must have the most difficult task in the world in guarding the President, were behind him at every angle as he shook the hands of everyone. I noticed a high school girl shook the President's hand, and then at about, I'd say 15 minutes until 12, the motorcade left Love Field, heading for its predetermined route down Lemon Avenue into the downtown area, and they were to come down Commerce and turn right on Houston, rather to come down Main and turn right on Houston over to Elm, turn left on Elm, and down under the now spot that will be remembered, I'm sure, as the years pass, as the place where an attempt, and we hope the attempt remains in the press releases, was made on the life of the President of the United States.
Do not call the police department. Do not call the radio stations, the television stations. Do not call the hospital. Particularly, do not call Parkland Hospital. Those lines are needed. Every telephone in that building will have to be made available to the Secret Service and to the people who are working to save the life of the President. Please do not call the Parkland Hospital. Do not call the television station. Our switchboard has been tied up for the last 25 minutes now. Do not call. In fact, it might be a good idea with all the long-distance calls coming out here, unless a telephone call is absolutely necessary, not to make the call. Are we ready in the newsroom now? We are. Okay. Bobby, why don't you just take your shot over there and pan around, and we will walk over and pick up the audio. Let's turn the mic on. I can't hear you, Johnny. What do you want? You want me to move back a little bit? Is it all right now? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the newsroom of our radio and television station. As you can see, most of the boys are out. Bert? Let's see. Let's get reorganized here. Grab that cable over there. We're on the air, Bert, and let's talk to you just a minute here. Is this all right? Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you the chief cameraman and assistant news director of WFAA Television. This is Bert Shipp. Bert, we have brought the people pretty much up to date. Would you tell them exactly what you know as of this point?
Well, Jay, I was standing at the trademark waiting his arrival there. All of a sudden, we saw them approaching. They didn't slow down. As a matter of fact, they were going 70 or 80 miles an hour past us. Everybody was unknowingly, didn't know what happened there at the trademark. And then I jumped in a police car and went to Parkland. When I got there, I found that nobody knew too much about where he was hit, but they knew that the President was shot in the head. This is what I've been told now, Jay. The President was shot in the head. Connally was shot in the chest. Both of them are still alive when I left the hospital.
Do you have some film?
And, yeah, I have film at the hospital.
Will you get the film and see if you can get it developed real quick?
Yeah,
and we'll
I will.
Put it on the air
And
run through.
one quote we got out there was Yarborough said the scene was too gruesome to describe.
I know.
And I've spent most of my time, so I'm going to get the film ready.
And then we seen him get shot in the side of the head. and he fell back in the seat, and Governor Conley was holding his stomach.
And the shots were almost simultaneously, weren't they?
Yes, sir, they were probably 10 seconds apart.
Do you know who fired the third shot?
I didn't hear a third. I don't recall a third shot. There may have been. My family hit the ground, and I don't recall a third shot. I just couldn't. I'm not certain of that. I do know I heard 2 shots.
Yeah, I heard 3. I know
You
there were
heard
3.
Well,
yeah, I said to Jerry after the second shot, I said, my God, those are gunshots. And sure enough, they were, unfortunately. Let me bring you up to date now. Yeah, I understand that we're having trouble in here with a pickup, so we'll move back to the studio. Is that correct? Just a minute. Ed, what is it you said? This is Ed Pfeiffer, our station manager. Excuse me just a minute. You want to go have a cup of coffee, and we'll be right back.
I think it might be better, Jay, if we move this back into the studio.
Okay.
In that it's very difficult to hear on the air.
The audio's bad? Okay, good. Okay, we'll move back in the studio. Jerry is standing by in there now. Let's see. Bert, as soon as the film is ready, you'll let us know so we can run it.
Jay, has ABC called from New York?
I have no idea. Okay, let's go back in the studio.
Feeding both networks.
Thank you very much.
Take one, Bob.
The time now, we're back at studio here where the news is given each day, and the weather and the sports, known as Studio B here at WFAA Television. Time now is, in 15 seconds, will be 1:15, so it was approximately, yeah. Yes,
See, I'm trying to find out, uh-oh.
Two of the networks.
I beg your pardon?
I said being fed.
Speak, go ahead, Ed, I can't.
Fed live on the networks.
Good.
From here.
I understand that we are feeding 2 of the networks at this moment. Is that correct? This is Nunley.
No, Newman.
Newman, I've been calling you. I'm sorry. I don't even remember my own name, really.
It's terrible.
Tell me what happened.
We were standing next to the curb so the children could see the president, and the car was just up a piece from us, and this shot fired out, and I thought it was a firecracker. And the president kind of raised up in his seat, and I thought, you know, he was kind of going along with a gag or something. And then all of a sudden this next one popped, and Governor Conley grabbed his stomach and kind of laid over to the side. And then another one, it was just all so fast, and President Kennedy reached up and looked like grabbed his ear, and blood just started gushing out. And my husband said, quick, get down. And I grabbed the baby, and we ran and laid down on the grass, and I got on top of him. It was just right by us when it all happened, just right in front of us. We were out at the airport, and we didn't get a very good view of him. And so we decided we'd try to get downtown to see him, because Billy, that's our youngest son, is getting old enough that he remembers things like that, and we wanted him to be able to say that he saw President Kennedy. And
now he will be able to say that he saw President Kennedy when he was shot.
Yes, he's already saying, Mother, why would someone want to shoot President Kennedy? Children, you don't realize how they catch on to things, but he's already talking about why would they want to kill him, and that's a question that everyone will
You
be
didn't see anybody?
No, it happened so fast that you didn't have a chance to see anything. It just was too fast.
You people who are looking in will excuse us if we sort of get organized on the air here. Bobby, I understand that we have some film that is that is in the process, that is being. Bert Ship has some, I think, one of our newsmen. It is being processed at the moment, so we will have that film. We are rushing our mobile cruiser. Beg pardon?
Physically, it might be a good idea for people who are watching who have never been to Dallas before to
I think,
explain.
I'll tell you what let's do. Is Sam Smith around, our artist? Sam, if we can have a piece of cardboard and a piece of chalk, we'll try to explain to you exactly where the location is in Dallas, Texas. Will someone see if we can have something to do a little artwork? He's on his way. Good. Well, we'll have a little drawing for you of where it is. On my right and on your left is a crude, and you'll excuse the artwork, with apologies to you, Sam, of where in Dallas the shooting took place today. Dallas is off to your left. This is Main Street. This is the county courthouse and the jailhouse in this block here. This is the triple underpass that we have referred to. This is where President Kennedy, Johnson, and as I understand it now, a Secret Service man was shot at about, and Conley was shot at approximately 12:35 today. And from our eyewitness that you saw earlier, was shot from up in here. This is an overpass going over these streets. We call it our triple overpass because there's another one, was shot from here. Conley arrived last night in Fort Worth to a warm reception. It was raining up until about, in Dallas and in Fort Worth, up until about, I guess 9:30 or 10 o'clock this morning. And everybody was saying, well, the president brought the rain with him, because those of you who have been in this area recently know how bad we have needed the rain. He made a speech this morning at 9 o'clock that was carried on television about, I beg your pardon? Let's go back to the network now and see what they have.
The operating room, that the vice president is fine. She was taken back into another first-floor room where Johnson originally had gone. Asked if her husband also had been wounded. She shook her head negatively. She said he had not been. Secret Service man pushed reporters away and permitted no more questions. Of course, you can imagine the confusion, the emergency circumstances, the confusion that must exist around that hospital. I'm receiving word now. We have received word that 2 priests who were with the president have reported that the president is dead. Now here again, we must emphasize that this is not an official announcement. It has not been announced by the White House or anyone in the official party traveling with the president. But the Associated Press quotes 2 priests who were with the president, stating that he died from the bullet wounds or wound inflicted upon him by a sniper. We have to assume that it was a sniper who fired from a considerable distance. The president was given the last rites of the Roman Catholic Church at about 1 o'clock Dallas time. Now, we, of course, are going to keep the air here, and we will bring you whatever reports come in as they come in from the wire services, from our reporters on the scene, and from Washington and Dallas directly. We will be going to Washington before long for a direct report from there. Ed Silverman is sitting here beside me. He has a telephone to Dallas and is in touch with our reporter Bill Lord, who is at the hospital and has been in touch with people at the scene. Ed, is there anything new there?
No, there is nothing new, Ron. Bill left the phone to check with the sheriff's office. He did confirm the death of the Secret Service agent, the fact that at least a dozen eyewitnesses have been brought in for interrogation, and the fact that 1 suspect has been picked up. He is in there being questioned now. There have been no details. Everyone is being very close-mouthed in the sheriff's office, and of course there's a great deal of rumor. Bill mentioned a great deal of rumor, as is understandable at a time like this. So we would hesitate to pass any of that along. We'd stick strictly with the facts as we get them.
Now we're receiving a report here. The United Press reports. The United Press reports that the president died at 1:35. That would be 1:35 Eastern Time, I presume. That would have been about 1:35 Central Time. That was only about 2 minutes ago. Now that again is a United Press International report. It is not attributed. We do not know whether that is an official announcement by anyone in the Kennedy party. Government sources now confirm. We have this from Washington. Government sources now confirm that President Kennedy is dead. So that apparently is the final word, and an incredible event that I am sure no one except the assassin himself could have possibly imagined would occur.
Bert, a black day.
Indeed it is, Jay, but from the last report from police, they are converging on an area in the 300 block or somewhere near the 300.
Let's not give it. We're maybe too many people.
Oh, well, they're already out there. But anyhow, in Oak Cliff, and they believe that they might have the assassin out there. They're looking for a white male, 35, about 5'8" in height. He got a white shirt, and that's about all I know right now. But they are putting an unusually great number of policemen out in that area, and so that's why we take some strength into this just routine call. And also, there's been a report that a policeman's been shot out there. Whether he's shot and killed, I don't know.
Well, is it confirmed now that the Secret Service man and, well, let's see, we don't know the condition of Connolly now, do we?
No, we don't. He was in...
He is all right? Good.
And, of course, he was shot in the chest, and the first details from the Parkland Hospital, very sketchy.
The time now is 20 minutes until 2 o'clock Central Standard Time. The president died 5 minutes ago. He arrived in Fort Worth last night. This morning at 9 o'clock in Fort Worth, he made his speech. At 11:35, he arrived in Dallas. And at 12:35, is that right? At 12:35, he was shot, and an hour later was pronounced dead. No, they're queuing up the film now that Bert took at Parkland Hospital, as I understand it.
Jay, it's going to start out some brief scenes at the Market Hall, or at Trade Mart, where the president was due to arrive. It's about probably a mile from the scene of the downtown shooting. And, of course, we had no word at Market Hall as to what went on downtown.
Roll the film.
And it was a complete mystery. The police didn't even know. But we knew, as you'll see about halfway through the film, the police went on past the Market Hall area, or Trade Mart rather, and on it to Parkland Hospital. They had a big welcome sign for the president there at the corner of Industrial and Stemmons. It says, "Welcome, Jackie." And
now, this was the place where the president was supposed to make his speech.
Here's some a gentleman carrying signs. I guess you'd call them gentlemen. They had these signs. They wasn't causing any trouble. They were run off moments after this, told that there was private property and they couldn't be around there. And they wouldn't talk to us other than they said their signs spoke for themselves. There's some of the crowd, 450 extra policemen called on duty. Everybody waited anxiously, and waited and waited and waited. There's a policeman ushering a fellow by the name of Joyner from Grand Prairie back across the street. The boys had their mouths taped up so they wouldn't be able to answer any questions. Now there goes the president on up the hill there. He's been, this is after we found out there was something wrong. And
speeding past.
Yeah, and here's the disappointed crowd left there at the Trade Mart. I went up on the roadway there to ask some policemen. Here we go to the hospital. There's homicide detectives in front of us. There's Parkland Hospital. There's the entrance. Police cars all over the place. There is Congressman Wright. He's teary-eyed, as you could imagine. And there's the presidential limousine. The Secret Service men shaking it over. There's
Wright again.
Wright and Yarborough. There's the Secret Service man is taking a type of a mattress or something out of the back of the car there. There's Chief Curry. He just couldn't believe it. He had put everything he had into this visit and gave the men all types of instruction. There's inside of a car. I don't know, well, that must have been Conley's car. There's some more shots of everybody waiting expectantly. At this time, no one knew anything. Then there goes Ms. Lincoln, the president's press secretary, inside. And there's Yarborough again, Senator Yarborough, and he says the sight was too gruesome to describe. And there's a final parting shot from Parkland.
The film and the quality of the film, of course, you can understand, and also the fact that it was not edited. This gentleman is Bob Walker, news director of WFAA Television. Bob, do you have some last-minute items there?
Just this, that the Vice President is on his way to Washington, where he will be sworn in. The President's children are on the second floor of the White House and have not been told as yet that their father was killed. And the White House news staff is under a state of complete, White House staff, I should say, is under a state of complete collapse. First reports said that President Kennedy was shot from an overpass. Our Wfaa-Tv reporter, Mal Couch, saw the gun emerge from the upper story of the warehouse, which has turned out to be the second floor of the Texas Book Depository.
This news at this point has so stunned the Capitol that there is no rational progression of events. Nobody is thinking about much of anything except the indescribable, incredible fact that the man who came out of Fort Worth with his customary PT boat vigor at 7 o'clock this morning, made 2 speeches in Fort Worth, and then went on to Dallas, is now a man in his 46th year, the youngest president of the United States ever to be elected as such, the first Roman Catholic ever to be elected as such, is dead. This is Edward P. Morgan in Washington.
We have just received word that Assistant Presidential Press Secretary Malcolm Kilduff confirms that Johnson, that is, Vice President Johnson, was not hit by the rifle fire. The new president previously had been reported wounded. So I think that there is no doubt now that Lyndon Johnson is all right. He was not injured in the shooting.
When the president was wheeled into the hospital, Governor Conley was still laying, again, half stretched out on the front seat of the car. I was surprised at this stage. I had noticed while we were waiting for the stretcher to be wheeled up for Mr. Kennedy, the vice president, who had been traveling in a car behind the president, had gotten out, and with someone by his side, the vice president appeared to be clutching his chest. He walked into the hospital, perhaps a minute or so before Mr. Kennedy was placed for the... There have since, of course, been unconfirmed reports that the vice president has suffered a heart attack.
This Secret Service Lieutenant Eric Kaminsky has said the assassin's weapon appears to have been a high-powered Army or Japanese rifle of .25 caliber. The entire building where the sniper was located was evacuated. If we could get a picture of our map here and show somewhere of the building, it's a Texas school book depository, which means exactly what it says.
This is the car where the president was. This is what we call our triple underpass in Dallas. This is the grassy area and it was originally thought that the shots came from in here, and now it's believed that the shots came from this building here. Right now, we have an interview with an investigating officer, so let's roll that film, please.
Yeah, can I have your name?
J.H. Sawyer.
And your position?
Inspector, please.
What is the story here now? This is apparently the building that the assassin shot from.
This is the building that the witnesses said they had seen a man up there, and some with a rifle. And also we found some empty rifle shells on the 5th floor.
So he would have been directly above us?
Directly above us. Indications were that he had been there for some time.
Well, has the police department taken any precautions against such an incident?
We thought we had taken all of the precautions that were necessary. But this particular building was not covered as were a lot of other buildings.
So as it stands now, there is a suspect. There were witnesses.
There are witnesses who saw the man.
What did they see as far as the president and the governor?
Well, several of the witnesses saw him slump over.
The president?
Yes.
And the governor?
And the governor, yes.
You also understand a Secret Service man was in?
This I do not know. I haven't received that information.
How many policemen are there in the city of Dallas?
We have approximately 1,300.
I would assume they're all out right now.
Go ahead. Yes, bulletin here. Police have arrested a white man in the Riverside section of Fort Worth in connection with the shooting of a Dallas policeman. The man has denied any connection with the assassination of President Kennedy.
Of course, there will be a lot of stories coming in like that. Everybody that's picked up here will be in some way or another connected. We do not know at this moment in Dallas, from the latest word we've gotten from our reporters, from the police chief, and from the sheriff's department, if any of the people arrested so far are actually the person who pulled the trigger. It seems like that the building that the shot was fired from is a building used by the state of Texas to store school books. It's an old building, a building that would be hard to cover. It stands over the viaduct as I guess there are 15 or 20 different places throughout the building that someone could be hiding to take a shot. I don't know of anything. I'd like to speak here for the city of Dallas. We are ashamed at the moment. We are stunned. The whole world is stunned, but at this moment I don't think anybody could be more stunned than the people who live in our city.
Mrs. Kennedy and the President, as you can see, are leaving. The Governor of Texas is in the jump seat right directly in front of the President, and the wife of the Governor of Texas is sitting in front of Mrs. Kennedy. The Secret Service are following the car out. They're standing on the running board of the follow-up car, and as is their custom, until the President's car picks up speed, usually about 20 miles an hour, run alongside of the car. When the car is moving, the Secret Service drop back, jump into the follow-up car, and stay right with him. The driver of the follow-up car keeps his car about no more than 10 feet at the maximum, and usually about 6 feet behind the presidential car at all times, regardless of the speed of the President's car and the speed of the motorcade.
A gentleman just walked in our studio that I am meeting for the first time, as well as you. This is Wfaa-Tv in Dallas, Texas. May I have your name, please, sir?
My name is Abraham Zapruder.
Mr. Zapruder?
Zapruder, yes, sir.
Zapruder. And would you tell us your story, please, sir?
I got out in, about a half hour earlier and get a good spot to shoot some pictures. And I found a spot, one of these concrete blocks that I have down near that park near the underpass. And I got on top there. There was another girl from my office. She was right behind me. And as I was shooting, as the President was coming down from Houston Street making his turn, it was about halfway down there, I heard a shot. And he slumped to the side like this. Then I heard another shot or two. I couldn't say what it was, one or two. And I saw his head practically open up, all blood and everything. And I kept on shooting. That's about all. I'm just sick again.
I think that pretty well expresses the entire feelings of the whole world. You have the film in your camera. We'll try.
Yes, I brought it on the studio now.
We'll try to get that processed and have it as soon as possible. Right now, we have videotape. A picture of the building of where the bullet came from. Let's take the picture first, then the videotape. Oh, this is videotape now. This is a picture of the hearse leaving Parkland Hospital with President Kennedy's body. As I understand it, the body is being taken to one of the funeral homes here in Dallas. There's a picture of the building that one of the boys took, showing possibly one of the windows that that was used. The top right hand. Okay, which one was it? Let's see if we can figure it out. There it is. There is a picture of the window where the gun was allegedly fired from that killed President Kennedy
been in the line of fire
today. Excuse me, go ahead, sir.
I must have been the line of fire where I see now the picture where I was. I was right on that concrete block, as I said. And as I explained before, as a sickening scene. At first I thought perhaps it sounded like somebody make a joke. You hear a shot and somebody grabs their stomach.
I was about 100 yards away from one of our the boy and I walked over to see President Kennedy. We were about 100 yards away, and it sounded like there were 3 shots. And after the first couple, I said, my God, they shot the president. And then we walked over and looked down and could see the people on the grass there, and I imagine you were one of the people that we saw there underneath the viaduct.
The Dallas Sheriff's Department has found a rifle on the 5th floor staircase of that building we just saw in the picture, the book storage place. It's a 7.65 Mauser, German-made Army rifle, telescopic sight, and 1 shell left in the chamber. 3 spent shells have been found nearby, and apparently they're hooking this as the murder weapon. This is from one of those windows up in the top.
Well, Don, as I said a little earlier, I think this, like the Puerto Rican attempt in front of Blair House in 1950, has to be a planned conspiracy. This is the first time in our history when a rifle has been used and fired at a president of the United States. from the photographs of the building, that carry must have been a couple of 100 yards. And whoever fired it must have been a man that could handle a rifle.
Well, this adds one to the case for conspiracy then, and the Dallas police are apparently trying to add another. They've arrested a 24-year-old man, Lee Oswald, in connection with the slaying of the Dallas policeman, and presumably the slaying also of the Secret Service man in another part of Dallas, which happened shortly before the president.
Well, I was interested also, Don, in the reports from Bob Clark that after the shooting happened, the president's car and the follow-up car immediately left in a hurry, left the scene. This, again, is in line with security measures.
We have some late film. Also, we understand that Vice President Lyndon Johnson will be sworn in Dallas. Our video cruiser is on the way. We'll try to have that tape for you later, or at least we will have film coverage of that as soon as possible. Let's roll the film now, Bob, and see what it has.
All right, this is some of the motorcade as it ended its drive just minutes before it rounded the turn at which the president was shot and killed.
And I, just about a minute, I'd say 45 seconds before the president was shot, I was standing right in here and gave the president the applaud. He turned the corner.
There's the president and Mrs. Kennedy just minutes before he was shot.
Mr. Haggerty explained, too, that that dome was not on, as you can see there.
Now we're getting down.
Right here is where it took place. Just as you saw...
Now, here is the spot where the president was killed. This is the building which the shot was fired. In a minute, you'll see a policeman or someone crawling in the... Where's the window where the shot was fired from? Now you see policemen with guns, suspecting perhaps the man was still in the building.
Come back to the man.
Bits of chicken, food particles were found in the building, indicating he had been there for some time. The weapon has been found. I do not have the exact make of it. They found it on the 6th floor of this building. I've just learned that. A German Mauser, I believe, is what it was.
This is Ron Ryland. You can imagine the confusion that's going on in the city of Dallas today, not only in our newsroom, but in all the newsrooms. Ron, tell us what you know.
Well, I've just come back from Oak Cliff at the Texas Theater on West Jefferson Street.
Let me explain. The Oak Cliff is a part of Dallas.
Yes, sir, it is. We joined a police motorcade that was dashing to the Texas Theater, where they had a report of a man coming in there that was armed. Just prior to that, a police officer had been shot in that area, had been shot with a .38 caliber automatic. We went to the scene. About, I would say, 200 or more police officers went into the theater and found a man sitting in the second row from the back that was armed with a shotgun. The
crowd, of course, I imagine, connected this with the slaying of the president.
Yes, sir. Any man I think it is armed in Dallas today is a suspect at the moment. The officers converged on this man, grabbed him up, and hustled him out of the theater, all the while he was protesting against the police brutality, that they were working him over in one thing and another. They dragged him out. The crowd proceeded to push the officers aside and try to get at the man, screaming murder and all, and they do believe that it was almost a lynch mob.
I've just received word that Lyndon Johnson has been sworn in as President of the United States. More background material on that in just a few moments from New York. I'll repeat, Lyndon Johnson is now President of the United States. He was sworn in just a few minutes ago at Love Field. Our boys are coming back to the studio here at Wfaa-Tv with that film, and we'll have it in just a few moments.
ABC News has canceled all its regularly scheduled programs for the rest of the day and will remain on the air until at least 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. The Dallas Sheriff's Department said a rifle had been found in a staircase on the 5th floor of a building near the scene of the assassination. It was a 7.65 Mauser. The German-made Army rifle had a telescopic sight with one shell left in the chamber. 3 spent shells were found nearby.
We have a piece of film we would like to show you now. Bert Shipp is our chief photographer and assistant news director of WFAA Television. This is Well, roll the film, Bert, and if you would narrate it, please, so they can move up there a little bit.
All right, Jay, this is that rifle that was shown minutes ago on the network. They dusted it for fingerprints from the, while it was still up in the building. And you'll see the detectives gathering and gathering their evidence. Tom Allier, one of our reporters and photographers, shot this film. He has just now managed to get out of the building because of the close security around it. You'll see stacks and stacks of books at this
All right, get it up
this
there.
big
Get it up there.
many-story building, and they actually found some chicken bones in there. We'll see a picture of that in a minute. Now the film starts getting a little bad. Looks like Tom lost his loop. But this is the inside of the building where the sniper was. There's the detectives. They get it all downstairs now, trying to regroup after being stunned by this.
Here is a picture of the man who allegedly shot the policeman.
We'll have a statement from the hospital in 15 minutes from the hospital. Things on the line.
This is the gentleman who allegedly shot the policeman, and a few moments ago on ABC, you saw the films of him being arrested, exclusive films here on ABC. We're all asking ourselves the question, why Dallas, Texas? What happened? Who could have possibly been so deranged to commit such a crime? We are stunned. The people of our city are completely stunned. There is no work going on. Our city is at a standstill, as you have seen around the country on ABC. The entire nation is presently at a standstill.
And the body of President Kennedy is back in Washington. Secret Service escort now lifting the bronze casket off the truck, bringing it down onto the field of Andrews Air Force Base. A Navy honor guard alongside. The casket is now being put into a gray Navy ambulance. Mrs. Kennedy is now coming down following the casket. With her, other members of the Kennedy family. The Attorney General can be seen. Mrs. Jacqueline Kennedy, Attorney General Robert Kennedy have accompanied the casket back here to Washington, are now getting in the ambulance. We'll go with the body to Bethesda Naval Hospital. This is the same giant aircraft that President Kennedy used on all of his trips around the world. And now with the sorrowing Mrs. Kennedy accompanying the body of her husband, the Navy ambulance pulls away from the airfield here and heads toward the Bethesda Naval Hospital.
Given to him at the present time, and Lyndon Johnson is still standing there. They're looking at the plane, the people gathered around the officials. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
It is a sad time for all people. We have suffered a loss that cannot be weighed. For me, it is a deep personal tragedy. I know that the world shares the sorrow that Mrs. Kennedy and her family bear. I will do my best. That is all I can do. I ask for your help and God.
With me here in our New York studios is ABC's commentator Howard K. Smith. Howard, where were you when the news of this tragedy arrived?
Well, Bob, that may be recorded in my disheveled appearance. I got on an airplane in Cairo in Egypt last night American time, and I just got off that plane and came in from the airport. I'd been to Cairo to interview President Nasser. And we were about 500 miles from the United States, about 37,000 feet up in the sky. And the pilot overheard a radio broadcast from the United States, and he had recognized me as an ABC newsman he had seen, and he sent the navigator back and asked me to come up and listen to the broadcast. So I did, and we heard it, and I was stunned. And he said, "I've now heard it enough, I think, to make an announcement to the 133 passengers on the plane," which he then did. I then went back into the cabin, and everyone was silent and stunned. I think the reaction was universal on the plane, and I gather everywhere else. People simply could not believe that this energetic, vigorous young man, who had not yet even reached the climax of his presidential term, who still had all his biggest legislation ahead of him, still waiting to be acted upon, you just couldn't believe that he'd been shot down in mid-passage. And there were no sounds. The only opinion I heard, I'm afraid, was my own. Someone finally said to me, "What do you think?" And I said, "I think there are just too many nuts abroad in our nation. There are too many people who are preaching disrespect for courts and law. There are too many people who put too much emphasis on the direct approach instead of arguing, let's hit or shoot." It's not a very original opinion, and it's not a very intelligent one, but that's still the only one that I can summon.
As someone told me in Wall Street today, where I learned about this news, he hopes that whoever it was soundly deranged, because this might be the only way in which any forgiveness for this heinous crime could be expressed.
It's interesting to note that Lee Oswald at first admitted nothing about the incident today. Then he said he had been in the building where the shots had been fired at the time of the shooting, and then a little later it was established that he had actually worked in the building and had been employed there as a clerk for approximately 2 months.
This city is waking up to the morning after its tragedy, a tragedy still hard for the imagination to encompass. And this will be a day of prayer in Dallas, with all churches open, and the prayers of Dallas will be echoed around the world. The man who stands accused of killing the president faces another round of questioning as local officials try to break down his story that he's not implicated. So far, there have been no incidents in the city, but a common question that's heard everywhere is why? Why must Dallas bear this shame?
At 1:35 this morning, a complaint was read. It charged that, quote, Lee Harvey Oswald did voluntarily and with malice aforethought kill John F. Kennedy by shooting him with a gun, end quote. Following the reading of the complaint, Oswald said, "That's ridiculous."
Did you say, Chief, that a policeman had seen him in the building?
Yes.
After the shot was fired? Why didn't he arrest him then?
Because the manager of the place told us that he was an employee. He said, he's all right, he's an employee.
Did he look suspicious to the policeman at this point?
I imagine the policeman was checking everyone he saw as he went into the building.
Well, then after this happened, what was done in terms of getting the trail back to Oswald?
The next thing we knew is when he turned up as a suspect in the murder of the police officer. And then the connection was made between the two.
Chief, did anyone see him shoot the police officer?
Yes.
Who was that?
I don't know the name,
male or
but there's
female.
I think there were three witnesses. I understand.
Saw him shoot the officer.
Has he made any admissions at all about the shooting of the police officer?
No,
Nothing.
he denies everything.
Why do you think the police officer went to him in the street? What were the reasons?
I think he suspected him because of a description that had been put out on the radio.
On the police radio?
Well, they were searching the theater, and as the officer approached this man, he jumped up and said, "This is it," and drew a gun, attempted to draw a gun. They grappled with him, were able to twist the gun away from him, and he was resisting violently, and several officers were subdued him. I had two officers that had to have treatment for injuries, wrestling around over the seats in the theater, and another officer was scratched up but didn't have to have treatment.
Is there any subversive background? Was there any?
I'm sorry, there's too many talking. I can't understand.
This man's apparent subversive background, was there any surveillance? Were police aware of his presence in Dallas?
We in the police department here did not know he was in Dallas. I understand the FBI did know that he was in Dallas.
Chief, do you...
Normally part of practice for the FBI to inform the police, municipal police department.
Chief, do you have...
We did not have...
But you were not informed?
We had not been informed of this man.
Chief, do you have any concern for the safety of your prisoner in view of the high feeling among the people of Dallas over the assassination of the president?
No, but necessary precautions will be taken, of course, but I'm not, I don't think that the people will try to take the prisoner away from us.
Chief, can you tell us in summary what directly links Oswald to the killing of the president?
Well, the fact that he was on the floor where the shots were fired from immediately before the shots were fired, the fact that he was seen carrying a package to the building, the fact that...
when were you carrying that package? The same day?
Yesterday morning.
You figure that was a disassembled rifle?
I don't think it was disassembled. It was, the package was large enough for the rifle to be intact.
The box, or was it
wrapped in paper.
And you have the witness who places him there after the time of the shooting?
My police officer can place him there after the time of the shooting.
Whenever this door is open, they come through here. We don't want any of you questioning this boy. We don't want any of you pushing. We want to cooperate with you. We want to help you every way in the world that we can, but we're going to have room to work.
Do you mind if we shout a question at him without stopping him?
No question at him, no way.
All right.
The more you upset him, the more difficult it is for us to talk to him.
We want to do whatever you want us to do. So if you say no questions.
If you go beyond the door.
Then.
Back up as far as you can against that wall, and I want you to stay there.
Can we call that the second part of the interrogation?
No. Don't want you calling out nothing.
Let's make it clear we have all agreed with the chief that we will not ask Oswald any questions.
We want to cooperate with you, gentlemen, every way in the world that we can. But if we have to, we may have to ask you to get back beyond this door and stay there.
In that event, could the cameraman be in front if they're not going to be able to?
I don't have anything to do with the placing of your amusement or your cameras.
We'll cooperate, but we can't.
I just don't want any questions asked.
Let us be in the bothering.
We'll be locked up back there. We just can't take that chance, but we'll duck down. The door has just opened. Here is Lee Oswald, the ex-Marine accused of killing President Kennedy. Oswald's face is rather badly bruised. Police explained yesterday that there was a sharp scuffle when he was arrested in a Dallas theater. There were no questions put to Oswald by reporters. We agreed at the request of the chief of police that we would make no effort to question him here this morning. Oswald has been taken into the Homicide Bureau, where he will be questioned further about details of the two killings here yesterday, that of President Kennedy and a Dallas policeman. As of now, Oswald has admitted nothing.
With us here in the studios of Wfaa-Tv in Dallas are two members of the Dallas Police Department, two brave men who took part in the apprehension yesterday of Lee Harvey Oswald. To refresh your memory, Oswald was actually captured several hours after the assassination of the president in a theater some distance from the assassination scene. He was found inside this theater and apprehended. On my right, Detective Paul Bentley, and on my left, Patrolman M.N. McDonald. I believe, Patrolman McDonald, you were involved first in going into the theater. Could you describe for us what happened?
Well, I walked into the rear exit after a person had pointed out a person had run into the theater in a suspicious way, and there was about 15 people inside the theater at the time, and there's one person was sitting back there alone near the rear of the theater. And as I approached him about 1 foot from him, he jumped out of his seat and held his hands up and says, "This is it." And he hit me in the face with his fist, blooding my nose, and I immediately grabbed him, and he went for his gun that was in his waist. And I went at the same time, and we were struggling in there, and I received a scratch on my cheek, evidently from the hammer of the gun as it came out of his belt. And as it was coming out, he snapped the trigger on the pistol, which misfired, luckily.
Was the pistol loaded?
Yes, fully loaded. It had 6 rounds in it.
Had you ever had an experience like this before?
Well, not this desperate, no, sir.
Detective Bentley, could you tell us your part in the apprehension?
Yes, sir. I was out on the 10th Street address where Patrolman J.D. Tippett had been shot, and we received the information that the suspect had just entered the Texas Theater. Captain Talbert of the Radio Patrol and myself went to the Texas Theater, and Captain Talbert let me out to go in the front while he covered the rear of the theater. On entering the theater, I went to the balcony where I was told that this suspect had gone to. Assisting me up there were several uniformed officers, and I advised them to search the people in the balcony, and I proceeded to go down to the lower floor. Just as I got to the back of the theater, I noticed the scuffling that was going on between Patrolman McDonald and this suspect. I immediately, in some way, I don't know how, I sprained my ankle in getting over the seats to aid Patrolman McDonald, but in aiding him, I twisted my ankle, causing some severe strain to my ankle. At the time I got a hold of the suspect, Patrolman McDonald was scuffling with him, trying to get the gun away from him, and by the time we got him pretty well subdued, we had the assistance of 4 or 5 other patrolmen and other officers.
This is Mrs. Jean Hill of Dallas. Could you tell us what you saw?
Yes, Mary and I had come down to see the president this morning, and we tried to get a place where we could be away from everyone, and we, I guess, succeeded. As the car came down the hill toward us, he was on our side of the street, and the president and Mrs. Kennedy were in the back seat. They had a little dog between them looking at it, and just as the car came right in line with us, the president looked up, and just as he looked up, 2 shots rang out, and he grabbed his chest, and this real odd look came over his face, and he pitched forward onto her lap. And she jumped up over him at that and screamed and said, "My God, he's been shot." And there was just an instantaneous, sort of an instant's pause, and in the motorcade it momentarily halted, and 3 or 4 more shots rang out, and they sped away real quickly. And by that time I became aware of Mary tugging on my foot saying, "Get down, they're shooting." And it hadn't registered. I'd been so busy looking at the president.
So you were in a very advantageous spot to see the president.
To see the president, but also to get shot.
How do you feel now? It's been several hours later. You've talked to the police, and you've given your story several times. Do you still believe that something like this really did happen to you?
I don't think I ever could have believed it unless I had actually seen it. And when I saw the look come across his face, I knew that he'd been hit. But I don't think I could have believed it if I hadn't been right there and hadn't seen it.
Well, you're going to have to talk to the FBI now, and I understand you have some home chores as well.
Breakfast dishes and everything.
I think there are an awful lot of homes here in Dallas that have breakfast dishes to be done today.
Well, that's right. But I made a call to my friend in Oklahoma, and he told our governor of Oklahoma right away. Guess that's the first thing I wanted to do, was get those people in Oklahoma told about it.
Thank you very much.
This is the assassination scene, where the presumed assassin stood with a rifle on the 6th floor of a Texas book depository and fired the fatal shots at the presidential caravan. This is a brilliant but cold Sunday morning in Dallas. We can see now, as the camera swings around, the Commerce Street, the exact spot where, as the motorcade passed, the president was slain. You can perhaps now see also the flower wreath, the tributes that have been brought by the citizens of Dallas in memory of the president. Of course, within an hour from now, the presumed assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald, will be brought to the Dallas County Courthouse, virtually to the scene of the crime.
Here is ABC's Bill Lord at the city jail. Bill, what's the situation?
Well, I am presently in the basement of the Dallas Municipal Building, and it is like an armed camp. For the past half hour, scores of police have been filing past me, carrying riot guns and rifles. Police officials are frankly worried. They don't want anything to happen to Oswald. They firmly believe that he is the man who killed the president. They want to make sure he is safely transferred to the county jail and that he does stand trial and is convicted.
This is the Texas School Book Depository building, directly catty-corner across Elm Street from the courthouse. It was on the 6th floor of this building, from the corner window, that the assailant, the assassin, fired the fatal shots from the bolt-action 6.5 millimeter Italian rifle. From that window, the shots covered a distance of approximately 250 to 300 feet, down to the point along the Elm Street approach to the underpass where the president was shot.
Bill, what about the arm precaution down there? Are there weapons visible?
There are many weapons visible. Riot guns and rifles are on display. The officers have them in their hands. They are ready to prevent anything they possibly can. There are perhaps 200 or 300 people outside the City Hall waiting to see the transfer of Oswald.
All right, very good, Bill. Thank you very much. Bill Lord, ABC, standing by at City Hall.
And now I think once again we'll go down to the county jail and where Roger Sharp is standing by outside. Roger?
Outside of the county courthouse here, in the distance, some 300 feet from where I am standing, the area directly adjacent to the assassination point, the park area where during the past 24 hours numerous floral wreaths have been laid by various Dallas citizens and organizations. The first floral arrangement was placed early yesterday morning by a lone man, Mr. Henry Stanton, who placed the flowers there in memory of the president with a simple inscription.
Bob Walker, Wfaa-Tv, Dallas, Texas, interrupting. There's been a shooting at Dallas Police Station as Oswald was being transferred. For details, Bill Lord, ABC at City Hall. Bill.
Just 1 minute ago, they were bringing Oswald out. He had apparently changed clothes. He was just going out the door, heading towards the armored car, and there was a bang. We believe it was a shot. And apparently, what has happened to it, we do not know at the present time. Policemen rushed to the scene, attempting to ascertain what had happened. Photographers were taking pictures. Is there someone down on the floor over there? Is there someone injured down on the floor? Apparently Oswald is the word we get, but this is unconfirmed because no one can really see what has happened. There was a shot, one shot, and everyone here jumped to see what had happened. Apparently Oswald was shot by a small elderly man. An elderly man with a small revolver. Where I'm standing...
How far are you away, Bill?
I'm about 20 feet away from apparently where Oswald is. If this is Oswald down on the floor, I cannot see him. There's a bench in between me. But they are examining a man who is on the floor, and the police look very concerned at this moment. The report is that an elderly man with a small revolver. Again, I caution that this I did not see, but these are the reports. There is someone down on the floor. A detective put his hand up on his forehead, shaking it. Oh, no, this has happened. There are 2 men down, apparently, but only one shot was fired. Can we get confirmation? Is that Oswald? They saw Oswald lying on the floor. He is injured. They're taking him back upstairs now. His shirt is ripped open.
Can you tell where he was shot, Bill?
No, we cannot tell that. No, we're not sure if that was Oswald. They believe that might have been the man who did the shooting. His shirt is ripped apart. Oswald is on the floor.
More caution and protection has been used for this man than anything had ever been seen in the city of Dallas, probably more than had been used to protect the President of the United States. In fact, Dallas City Hall is normally a public building, but today it was really under armed guard.
Jack.
Is this a confirmed report as to who did the shooting?
As far as I know, I just got it from Vic Robertson.
Vic Robertson from City Hall reports that Jack Ruby, the owner of the Carousel, which is a bar in Dallas, did the shooting. That's a report from City Hall. Evidently a report taken from that statement that Police Chief Jess Curry was just to give.
Yeah, he's got to be here. There he is. There he is. Here he comes.
Now the prisoner wearing a white sweater has changed from his t-shirt.
Officer, triangle
This is a pan from the door leading out into the basement parking lot down to the spot where he was brought.
Play this little ball, Andy. I want to get some fishing there.
About the man that was carried upstairs. Was that the man that shot the man, or do you know?
That is the man that shot the man.
Did anybody know who he was? Was he recognized?
I don't have his name at the present time.
Did you recognize him as somebody that's been around here this morning waiting?
I didn't recognize him. I didn't see him well enough.
This is the exit where Oswald came out, but he did not come out the way police had intended him. The armored car was to have come through here, taking Oswald to the county jail. When the shot occurred and an ambulance arrived, he was taken out here and driven to the hospital. There were about 200 people on hand at the time. The crowd has grown now, wanting to see just what had happened. Did you hear the shooting?
I heard a shot.
What do you feel about this?
Oh, terrible.
Do you all feel bad about this?
Very, very bad.
The police wanted to make sure this man got a fair trial.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what happened.
We're sorry that he wasn't tried.
Well, apparently he is injured and they've taken him to the hospital.
We hope he lives where he can be tried and brought to justice.
Apparently a small man, an elderly man, came down with a small pistol.
We heard a shot.
You heard the shot?
Yeah, we heard the shot.
What happened out here after you heard the shot?
Well, we heard the shot, and then they pulled the armored car away. When they pulled the armored car away, why, everybody started running, and then all of a sudden this ambulance must have gone out another entrance, because we could see it up the street there. And everyone said, well, he must have been shot. And they started running to this building. I'm from out of town. I'm from Ohio. And we started running to this building here. We thought he was coming out this building here. So he has been shot. I just found out.
How bad is he injured?
This way? Did you hear the shot?
Oh, no, sir, I didn't hear.
You heard the shot?
I sure did, yeah.
How do you feel about this?
I don't know. I can't tell you.
Apparently Oswald was shot.
That's the way I understand it, yes.
Did anyone else hear the shot?
I heard it. I did.
I heard it and I told him, I said, I bet he got shot.
And he did. How do you feel about this?
I don't know. I hadn't reacted yet. I just don't know.
Dr. Tom Shires, Chief of Surgery at Parkland Memorial Hospital and Southwestern Medical School, advises me that Lee Oswald is currently undergoing surgery for a single gunshot wound that entered on his left side and did not exit. The patient is in extremely critical condition. Dr. Shires will make a personal statement when the surgery is completed.
Let Dr. Shires make his statement, please.
When did he die, Doctor?
He died at 1:07 our time, 13:07, of his gunshot wound. Would you like to ask questions or what? Yeah, Mr. Oswald died at 1:07 our time in the operating room of the gunshot wound which he had received.
Lee Harvey Oswald is dead. The assassin who felled the president 48.5 hours ago is dead of an assassin's bullet. At 1 o'clock on November 22nd, Lee Harvey Oswald shot dead John Fitzgerald Kennedy. At 1:07 on November 24th, Lee Harvey Oswald was dead of an assassin's bullet. And now this amazing picture, the instant before the shooting, taken in the basement. That's Oswald between two detectives, Jack Ruby on the right with the gun aimed almost at Oswald's heart. On the face, on the right side, you see Oswald grimacing with pain. He has just been shot. He has just been shot, allegedly by Jack Ruby of Dallas. And now Oswald placed in a stretcher in the basement just prior to being taken to Parkland Hospital, where he died at 7 minutes past 1 o'clock.
5.5 hours ago, a shot echoed through these halls, and one of the men closest to the point where the shot was fired is this man. He is a detective, Detective L.C. Graves. Could you tell us what happened and what you were doing at the time?
Well, about 11:15 this morning, in an attempt to transfer Oswald to the county jail, we got as far as the basement of the city hall, and a man lunged out of the crowd and fired one shot into his stomach.
Now, what were you doing? Were you escorting him?
Yes, I was helping to escort him at that time.
Were you holding on to his arm?
Yes, I had a hold of his left arm.
Now, there was another detective. He was handcuffed to Oswald?
Yes, Detective Lavelle was handcuffed to him with his left arm to Oswald's right arm.
When the man came out of the crowd and the shot was fired, what did you do?
Well, I grabbed his arm and took the pistol away from him.
Were there any screams?
I didn't hear any screams at that time.
The man, did he appear so quickly that preventive action could not have been taken?
Yes, he did. He was only a few feet. We were only a few feet from the newsmen that were right in front of us, and it was quite a large line of them, and he just lunged out of the line of men right into us.
Thank you very much, sir. It was Detective L.C. Graves, one of the men who was with Oswald when he was shot. This is Bill Lord reporting from Dallas City Hall. This is Detective Jim Lavelle, who was this morning handcuffed to Oswald and was bringing him out to the car to be transferred to the county jail. Could you tell us what happened?
We were proceeding with the prisoner as scheduled from the jail office out to the ramp where the automobile was waiting. And as we reached the area where the car was parked, the man from the crowd emerged, and there was 100 or more newspapermen and cameramen in the area, and it was almost a solid wall of flesh in front of us and to our left, composed of the news media. When we came through the door with Oswald, they began taking their pictures, and in the issuing time that they were snapping pictures and talking, I saw this man come from the crowd, and at the time he emerged from this crowd of people, he was not more than 6 or 7 feet from me. And I dare say that had I known that he was going to be there, the swiftness with which it happened, I doubt if anyone could have prevented it.
Did you see the gun in his hand as he came?
I saw the gun in his hand as he emerged from the crowd. But being such a short distance from me, I had no time to say anything. I did jerk Oswald to try to jerk him behind me.
Now, you were handcuffed to him?
I was handcuffed to him and also had a hold of the waistband of his trousers. I tried to jerk him behind me, but he had and I reached up and caught a hold of Jack Ruby's shoulder, left shoulder, and shoved back on him. At the same time pulling on Oswald. But he had this .38 snub-nosed pistol, and all he had to do was pull the trigger. It was a double-action gun. Just as soon as my partner on the other side, Mr. Graves, grabbed Jack's hand with the gun in such a manner that he couldn't fire it anymore.
Did he try to fire it again?
Yes, he was still with his left hand. He had the gun in his right hand. He was trying to pull it around, and I could tell that he was still trying to snap the pistol. But Mr. Graves had it in such a manner that he couldn't fire it anymore.
Did you speak to the victim on the ground?
Yes, I immediately picked him up then with another officer, I don't remember who that was, and carried him back inside the jail office to get him away from the area. And I tried to talk to him and ask him if he could hear me and if he understood me. He never did answer me, and his eyes were partially closed.
Did you recognize him when he came through?
Yes, I have known Jack Ruby for a number of years, and I recognized him just as soon as he emerged from the crowd.
But even if you knew he was coming, you say you didn't have the time to react to prevent it.
He was so close from the human wall of flesh of reporters there that it would have been impossible to have stopped him.
Thank you very much, Detective. The story of what happened when Lee Harvey Oswald was killed this morning. This is Bill Lord reporting from the Dallas Police Station.
Also here in the studio, WFAA News Director Bob Walker. Bob, what's new?
Just learned from City Hall from a very authoritative source that police are working on the assumption that there indeed is a connection between Jack Ruby and Lee Oswald, and that in some manner of speaking, Oswald's murder was to shut him up. Also, they have said that they will not release in the immediate future at all any of the information the FBI has gathered which led them to believe so strongly that Oswald had assassinated the president. But the police and investigation now is working on the assumption that there is a definite connection between Lee Oswald and Jack Ruby, and the successful attempt on Oswald's life was an attempt to shut him up. This word from a reliable source at City Hall.